Imagine waking up in the middle of the night and realizing the person lying next to you is not sleeping. They are dead. This sounds like a horror story, but for ancient families, this was completely normal. This was not strange. This was not scary to them. This was simply how life worked. Today we are going back in time to understand why ancient and 1800s families slept next to their dead, what they believed, what they felt, and why they never questioned it. The first thing you need to understand is that death in ancient times was not hidden. Death was not something that happened in a hospital behind closed doors. Death happened at home, in the same room where the family ate, in the same room where the children played, in the same room where everyone slept. When someone died in an ancient family, the body was not immediately taken away. There were no funeral homes. There were no morgues. There were no professional services to call. The family handled everything themselves. The moment a person stopped breathing, the family began what was called the death watch. This was a tradition practiced across almost every ancient culture in the world. The body of the dead person was laid out carefully on a flat surface, usually their own bed or a wooden board placed on the floor. The family then gathered around the body, and they stayed there for hours, sometimes for days. But why did they sleep next to the body? Why did they not simply move the body outside or to another room? The answer is both practical and deeply spiritual. The practical reason was simple. Ancient homes were very small. A typical 1800s pioneer cabin had only 1 or 2 rooms. The entire family lived, ate, cooked, and slept in the same space. There was nowhere else to put the body. Moving the body outside was not an option, especially in winter when the ground was frozen solid and wolves and other animals roamed freely at night. So the body stayed inside, and the family stayed with the body. But the spiritual reason was even more powerful. Ancient people believed that the soul of the dead person did not leave immediately after death. They believed the soul lingered near the body for several days. It needed time to transition from the world of the living to the world of the dead. Leaving the body alone during this time was considered deeply disrespectful. It was believed that an unguarded soul could become lost, confused, or even angry. A lost soul could bring bad luck, illness, or misfortune to the family. So staying with the body was not just a tradition, it was a duty. It was protection for the dead and for the living. In many ancient cultures, family members took turns sitting beside the body through the night. This was called keeping watch or sitting up with the dead. One person would sit awake while others slept nearby. Then another would take over. Nobody left the body alone for even a single moment. Children were not protected from this experience. In fact, children were expected to participate. Ancient families believed that children needed to understand death from a very young age. Hiding death from children was considered strange and unnatural. So children slept in the same room as the dead body. They helped wash the body. They helped dress the body in clean clothes. They sat with the body during the long night watches. And they learned that death was simply a part of life. The body was also prepared very carefully by the family. Women of the family would wash the body completely with clean water. They would comb the hair. They would dress the dead person in their best clothes. Sometimes they would place coins over the eyes to keep them closed. Sometimes they would tie the jaw shut with a piece of cloth so the mouth would not fall open. Candles were lit and placed around the body, not just for light but for spiritual protection. Many ancient cultures believed that evil spirits were attracted to dead bodies in the night. Candles and fire kept these spirits away. In some cultures, mirrors in the home were covered with black cloth. Ancient people believed that mirrors could trap the soul of the dead person. A trapped soul could never find peace. So every mirror in the house was covered until the burial was complete. Food and drink were sometimes placed near the body. Ancient people believed the soul needed nourishment for its journey to the other world. A cup of water, a piece of bread, sometimes even a full meal was placed beside the dead. The family also talked to the body. They spoke directly to the dead person as if they could still hear. They told stories about their life. They apologized for old arguments. They said the things they never got to say while the person was alive. This practice of staying with the dead lasted typically between 1 and 3 days. The exact time depended on the culture, the season, and how quickly the body began to show signs of decay. In summer months, the body would begin to smell within hours. This meant a faster burial was necessary. But in winter, the cold temperatures naturally preserved the body for longer. This allowed the family more time to grieve, to prepare, and to say goodbye. The burial itself was almost always done by the family. The men dug the grave by hand, usually in a small family plot on their own land or in a nearby churchyard. The women prepared the burial shroud, a simple white cloth wrapped around the body. There were no expensive coffins for most ancient families. A simple wooden box was built by hand if materials were available. Often the body was simply wrapped in the burial shroud and placed directly in the earth. After the burial, the family returned home, and life continued. The same small cabin, the same fire, the same bed. Life went on exactly as before, but with one less person in the room. This is something modern people find very difficult to understand. How could they go back to sleeping in the same room so quickly? How were they not traumatized? The answer is that ancient people understood death differently. Death was not a failure. Death was not a tragedy to be hidden. Death was the natural end of life. Everyone died. Everyone knew someone who had died. Children grew up understanding this from their earliest memories. Grief was real and powerful, but it was not hidden. It was expressed openly, loudly, and communally. And then life continued. Could you sleep next to a dead body tonight? Could you sit with it through the darkness for 3 days and 3 nights? For ancient families, this question would make no sense. Of course they could. Of course they did, because that is what family meant. You stayed together, in life and in death. If this story gave you chills, subscribe to Mythosminder and hit the bell. Next time we explore another lost and forgotten truth about how our ancestors really lived. Thank you for watching.